Hey everybody, how we doing tonight? Welcome to this special edition of the auction brief. We're going to be getting going here in just a couple minutes. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Let me get this thing tweeted out so everyone knows where to find it. Thank you so much for coming in. We've got 11 auction lovers and me, somebody who is not prepared, doesn't have a par sheet, doesn't have the draft dominator ready. We're going to wing it and see what happens. Last year, of course, I had plenty of people listening to me and they were bidding me up on players that I wanted. So we'll see if that happens again. I'm sure that's what's going to go down, but this is going to be a normal format here that I consider to be sort of a casual league format. I know that everybody believes that people are playing super flex and half PPR and et cetera, et cetera. I know there's a lot of leagues like that out there, but there's plenty of leagues that are just running one QB and, they're still doing full PPR. Whoops. It's so let me make sure that I'm not screwing this up. How's the audio? Is everybody hearing me all right? Okay. All right. Well, I think that's about it. We're going to let everybody get in here, and it is 8:32. So, yes, this is a one QB with kicker defense. We're going to start two running backs, three wide receivers, and we're going to have one flex, and we're going to get it going right now. So, all right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the input there that the audio is good. So, we're 2 minutes in, and I think that's ready. That's time to get moving. I believe that. All I got to do is hit this button here. Are we ready, folks? First up on the clock, Scrubbing Scrubs. Is that a little bit of a hint about what we're going to see from this drafter? And here we are. It is starting now. And we will not have any bots here, which is wonderful. Of course, we have Jonathan Taylor on the clock right out of the gate. I'm going to try to share my screen here, a little picture in picture. Hopefully, you guys can tell what's going on. And I'm sure that I'm not gonna make any mistakes, except I'm gonna make 30 while I'm trying to do both of these things here. We're at $71 on Jonathan Taylor. Everybody can see my screen? That's nice. How about that? Okay. So, we had a winning bid for Jonathan Taylor right out of the gate, $71. Now, this is my buddy Auction Andrew, I think he goes by. That is a hefty price. Now, I believe that Andrew, as an intelligent auction drafter, is thinking about the fact that we're only doing one quarterback and he can afford to pay up for fantasy's top player. So he's looking at $71 on the first. What do you guys think about that in the chat? How do you feel about $71 for any player? I love Jonathan Taylor. How do you feel about building the rest of your roster out in an auction with a $71 guy? I think it's difficult to do. But I will say that if anybody can do it, he can do it because he certainly knows what he's doing. So then we had a interesting nomination out of the two hole. We had Marlon Mack get nominated, and Mack went for, I believe, $2. So I love that. I love that we had a little bit of something different here. So we had Marlon Mack go for $2. We're currently bidding on Patrick Mahomes. He's stopping at $10. Should we bid 11? Yeah, I was thinking somebody might bid 11. That is a nice deal for Patrick Mahomes. I'm guessing we're getting in that neighborhood where people are going to start to Chief Matt. I don't know, Matt. I see your comment there. I think Andrew knows what he's doing. Andrew says that was a mistake. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, we have our first mistake. And let me just say, there are going to be times tonight at which it may sound like I'm being tough on people, but I know y'all can handle it because you know what you're doing. And I don't believe that you're going to sit there and think that I'm being unfair here. So Patrick Mahomes goes off the board for $17. And I didn't think it was going to stay in the low 10, 11, but I didn't think it would get to 17 either. So that's interesting. All right. So we are on Cooper Cup now. So back to my point, which I wanted to say was one of the things that just happened here is Andrew had a mistake bidding the $71 on Taylor. One of the things that I talk about in my shows over the summer is that you really have to familiarize yourself with the software. I hate doing mock drafts, but you can do mock drafts just for the purpose of familiarizing yourself with the online software, because it does get a little bit difficult and it's a lot to take in at once. And then you end up kind of either making a mistake, or maybe something happens with your internet connection or something. I'm not sure what happened with Andrew, but the point being, that's something that I absolutely recommend everyone does, is just do a mock draft, spend 15 minutes in a mock draft room and figuring out how things go and what buttons to push and how to queue up players and things like that. All right, so we just had Cooper Cup go. He ended at $55. So that's about right. That's where we're seeing him, right in the mid 50s. We're at Nick Chubb now. We're up to $30 on Chubb. Boy, I'm really tempted to click 31 there. I'm glad somebody else did, because I think that's a pretty reasonable price. I think the Nick Chubb slander is going a little bit far. And I've got a good question here from Levi Miller. Thanks for the question. What do I think about early nominations like Marlon Mack? I don't mind it. One of the things that I always say is that if you go too deep into the pool, now we're on Christian McCaffrey now, so I want to just give everyone a heads up there. We ended up getting Nick Chubb going off the board for $32. I think that's a really reasonable price. And I'll go back to my Nick Chubb take here in a minute. But Levi brings up a good point. What about nominating a guy like Marlon Mack early on? And I think that if you go too deep, the general rule is if you go too deep in the ADP sheet, so you're going all the way down to wide receiver 50 or whatever, a lot of times you can have a price inflation there that you don't want to see. And that price inflation can be, take a $1 or $2 player and make it a $4, $5, $6 player. So I think that is one of those things where it can be a double-edged sword. In this case, Marlon Mack for $2, that's totally fine. But sometimes you're going to pick a guy like that and he's going to go for 5 or 6 when you could have had him for 2 later. So that's my opinion on that, Levi. I think that I don't like to do that, go too deep. But I think sometimes when you go so deep like Marlon Mack, and everybody hates Marlon Mack now because of all of the hype on the rookie, I think that's one of those things that maybe it's okay to do that because you're going so deep. You're going down to like RB60 there. I don't know what he is right now, but all right. So we had Christian McCaffrey come up and go for $60. And we topped the $60 mark. I think that's about right. Andrew wouldn't have spent 71 on Taylor, but mid 60s is certainly reasonable. And you're going to see 70 in some drafts. But McCaffrey around 60, that's more of what I'm expecting it to go. I'm not in on it for on a guy like that for that price. But I think McCaffrey is a solid deal at 60. Then we had an interesting nomination there, and that was Brian Robinson, and he went for $7. And that's a little bit about what I'm talking about with Robinson. I think that it's possible that you can get Robinson cheaper than that later. Now, I don't know, because he is starting to gain some hype and some steam here, but maybe he's a guy that later on you can end up getting for 3 or 4. I don't know. But Robinson's one of those guys that's gaining too much ground too quick. So we're on Najee Harris now, and he's up to $32. I'm going to register a bid there. Absolutely. 32 is way too cheap. 34, faux show. So let's just keep going here. There's no way I'm getting him for this price, but I'm going to keep this running up here because we absolutely have to get this guy up there. Najee Harris is way too cheap. You're welcome, Levi. $40. Heck yeah. Once again, too cheap. If y'all are listening to me, you're going to get over on me because I'm just going to tell you what I think during this entire draft. Now we're getting 42. I think that's reasonable. I probably should click 42, but I'm going to let it go. Harris isn't my favorite guy. I probably should have clicked 42. I might regret that one. But yeah, I'll let him go for 41. And Spokes and Beer, he gets a nice deal there with Najee Harris for $41. I think that's going to prove to be a really nice deal. My buddy Jim Coventry on Cam Akers, he opens for 11. I love Jim. Jim is a great auction drafter. He won the auction in the King Snake last year, and this dude absolutely slayed that room of experts. He slayed him. He ran away with the points title. He won the regular season title, and then he took down the entire league. Man, the triple crown in an expert 14-team auction league. You're a stud, Jim Coventry. That is one hell of a job. So thanks, Alexander. Appreciate that. I appreciate the support, man. All right, so we're on Cam Akers now. We're up to $22. And depends on what you believe on Cam Akers, because that's either a really nice price if you believe that he's going to be, carry the water here for 65% of the touches, or if you think, on the other hand, that he's a little bit sketchy prospect because of what you saw at the end of last year, you probably don't like that price. So he's one of those guys that's really interesting because you can look at his price afterwards and say, you can make both arguments. You can say that's good or that's bad. I think Jim gets a $29 running back, and that's a heck of a deal. So he could make him his second running back, or he could stick him in the RB1 spot, and he's going to free up a lot of money for some other players. All right, now Derrick Henry is up, and we are up at $30 already on Derrick Henry. Cam Akers ended up going for 29, so Henry's up to 31 now. And what's interesting is we have started with a really strong running back run here. And that is not unusual here. And that's something I preach about on my show all the time. Look at we've had a couple different nominations like Marlon Mack and Brian Robinson. But look at who else we've got out there. We've got Chubb, Akers, Harris, McCaffrey, Taylor, and we're bidding on Henry. So this is not unusual. This is something that happens in just about every draft room. It's something that you're going to want to remember. So, yes, Matt, you're absolutely right. Starting with a ton of running backs here. Working that out. Derrick Henry goes for 51 to Tom. Tom is quite a sharp drafter. It sounds like he's been doing these for a long time. And I'm going to be nominating soon. Does anybody know how to scroll my screen to the right? I'm struggling with that aspect because my team's cut off on the right. So the nomination's coming up here, and it looks like we're going for Travis Kelce. He's at $2. I'll definitely pay $3. Give me Kelce for $3. Come on, big money. Oh, he's up to 17. Now we've got a big bid up to 25. Now we're at 30. So Kelce's at $30. This is an interesting moment here. I like this because we've got a different elite player, and this is really going to, this is going to, this is cool. So I'm not sure that I've seen a Kelce go for that much before. That is a heck of a price. So I'm not sure that that's something that I'm gonna do. I'm generally out on top. Oh my gosh, it's my turn to nominate. I had a plan here. Here we go. Here's my plan. All right. Let's go for Jalen Waddle. So I just don't like my builds when I make Kelce a high-paid player on my team. I love having Kelce. And every year I start to think to myself that I'm going to do it. And I'm going to buy one of these top tight ends. I just don't like it. It doesn't mean it can't be done. So, that's something that you want to keep in mind. But, this is, I don't know. I probably am going to regret this. I'm going to let him go. I should have bid. That's one of those things where I'm running my mouth. I probably should have said 18 there. Nice deal, Byron. I nominated Waddle. I want to see where that wide receiver, that mid-tier wide receiver, market's going to get set. And that's why I made the Waddle bid. I wanted to pick somebody down a little bit, but somebody still had some value and see what that was going to do. And he actually went for a price that I would like him for. So that's $17. I probably should have said 18, like I said. And, that's where, I'm not going to let Mixon go for 38. So, I like that. I like to see that market get set for those mid-tier guys and see whether or not it follows that way or whether or not it's going to branch off a little bit because it is a 1 QB. I think people are going to spend a little bit more. We have to start 3 wide receivers and a flex. So people are going to spend up a little bit. So that's what I wanted to see with the Waddle nomination. So let me get us tweeted out here again. Sorry for the delay. I can't type and talk. Josh Allen's on the clock. What did we end up going? Joe Mixon went for 43 just now. Joe Mixon for 43. Josh Allen's on the clock. He's up to $15. And let me tweet out the show. So Josh Allen's still going here. He's up to $22. $23 now. All right. So here's the thing. I like that this group is really doing, what I want everyone to do. This is a tough group. There's not anybody going to let somebody get a great deal yet. And there's a little bit of variation coming in on the nominations now. We're getting, things are starting to diversify a little bit. But man, we have hit those running backs hard with Mixon coming off the board now and Akers. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs. Only one's been under $30. So we are hammering the running back spot. Josh Allen gets sold for $31. And so again, you all have heard me talk about it on my show. I think you can build a team if you spend up at tight end, if you spend up at quarterback. I think you can do it. It's just that I don't like my builds that way. So that's not my personal preference. But that's what I love about auctions. I think you can do it any way you want to do it. And that's what I love. So, yeah, Matt in the chat, you're about right there. Late first, early second, we're in the $40 range, something like that. I thought Mixon would be a little bit cheaper. I was thinking that I might end up with Mixon as my RB1. That didn't happen. We're on Alvin Kamara right now. If you can see that on the screen, I hope you can. We're on Alvin Kamara, and he is up to $42. And that's a little surprising to me as well. I think that maybe there's a little bit of like, screw it. It's a mock there because I love Alvin Kamara. But it is a risky pick, and I'd expect him to go in the mid-30s or something like that. So I don't hate the price if there was nothing hanging over his head. But I think, with the cloud hanging over his head, I don't think he's going to be suspended. But man, I get nervous, and I'm just a nervous guy, huh? If you listen to me, you know I'm a bit of a nit. That's all right. I own it. So we're starting to get a few people in here watching. I hope this is entertaining. It's probably a little bit boring, but if you're a hardcore auction nerd, I think that maybe this commentary is helping. So let's step back and take a little bit of a 40,000 foot view right now, because where we are, we've got J.K. Dobbins on the clock now, and where we are in this draft is we're still really early. We're on pick 16, so we're only a third of the way into round 2. And what are you thinking about when you are in this position? If you don't have any players, don't get nervous. First of all, I said this in my last show that just dropped today. Don't get nervous. There's plenty of players. You're going to have plenty of players to go after. We got J.K. Dobbins at $25 right now. So I think the important thing is at this point in the draft, you're still feeling out what players are doing, who wants to spend their money, who doesn't, what kind of players they're after. You're still feeling out the room here. You don't know that stuff 17 picks into the draft. Dobbins goes for $26. Okay, so we're still hammering away at the running backs here. So, yeah, so I think that you can sit here and say, now we got Justin Jefferson. We got a big dog up there. Oh, 19. I'll pay 19. Ooh, 20. Jim. Just kidding, Jim. Jim jumps up to 45. I don't think I can let him go for 46. Okay, yeah, I was about to click 46 there. I'm not going to let him go for 47 either. All right, as long as we get him over 50, I feel like the market price has been enforced properly there. So, yeah, this is a good point to make here. I know I was talking about what we're doing in the draft here. I'll come back to that. We're up to $60 now on Justin Jefferson. So he's going to beat Cup by a sizable amount. Jefferson goes for 60. I believe Cup went for 56. See, 55. So $5 more for Jefferson than Cup. That's an interesting moment there. But one of the things that I was talking about is, where is your draft going to go? And that's what you should be thinking about here. Like, a lot of people have spent some money now, and that's cool. But if you've spent the money, or if you haven't spent the money, you still need to be thinking about, hey, where is my draft going? And if you've spent some money, you need to think, okay, now what do I do now that I have my core started? So you should always be evolving on where your focus is going. Now, are you trying to focus on this point at, hey, I've spent some money? Let's say, let's look at somebody who spent a little bit of money. So Serge just spent 60 on Jefferson and 17 on Mahomes. He spent $77 now. So what does Serge have to think about now going forward? Because he doesn't have a running back yet, and he's got his top wide receiver. So what kind of running back is he going for? Does he want to nominate them? Does he not want to nominate them? Does he want to hang back for a little bit? These are the kind of things you got to think about. What am I going to do? This is still really early. So like I said, you're still filling people out, but we're starting to get a lot of running backs off the board now. You're starting to think about, if you don't have a running back, there's 4 of us, I believe, that don't have a running back. Who am I after? And what's my plan going to be if the prices continue to shoot up into the 50s? Because I'm not really into paying 50. So if that happens, what am I going to do? What's going to be my plan B? These are all things that you got to be thinking about. This has to be a constant process that you are mulling over in your head over and over and over. Every player is important at this point, because you are not only defining what other people are doing, but you are pushing your draft in a certain direction. This is all really important stuff right here. So if I wasn't running my mouth, I'd be thinking about 6 different factors on how I'm going to proceed here, because I don't have a player yet. And Kevin in the chat asks a good question that says, when do you start worrying about not having a player? I'm not there yet. There's plenty of guys left. There are plenty of players left. And that's one of those things that I think takes a little bit of time. Elijah Mitchell is up now. We just had, let me recap real quick because I'm running my FWM. Gabe Davis at $25 just went to Jim Coventry, and Devontae Adams for $46 just went to Tom. I think had I been paying attention, I probably would have bid 47 on Adams. That's probably a mistake. We're on Elijah Mitchell now. He's going for $15. And again, probably should have clicked 16 there. It's a starting running back. I know people are a little concerned about the hamstring, but they're just resting him. Camp injuries are different than regular season injuries. I think that Mitchell's going to be okay. Now we're talking about Jamar Chase. Ooh, $2. I bid $2 on Chase. Maybe I'm going to get him here. Oh, somebody bid more than 2. Jim up to $41. I'll go 42. Nope, somebody's up to 50 already. So we're really running the top players up there quick. And that's something that you got to think about at this point. Because the top players are going up so fast, you know that there's some deals are coming in later. There's players in this room now that have less than $100. And there are players in this room now that have a max bid less than $75. So they're not going to be in on any of the top players left. Now, there's still plenty of money in the room. Don't get me wrong. 2 people have no players yet, and 1 person only has 1 player. So it's going to happen that we're going to pop the cherry here in a little bit, but we are definitely in that point where we are seeing some elevated prices. That means some things are going to come back to us here at some point. Now, you can't wait too long, or there won't be anybody for it to come back to. But I think Leonard Fournette for $31 is a fine price. I'm going to bid. I'm going to keep going on Fournette here. I think this is a nice, solid deal. We're in the low 30s on Fournette. I don't love Fournette, but at this price, based on what the other prices have been, he'd be a fine RB1 for my type of build. I'm going to go up to 36 on him. Now, I don't really want to go over $40. I mean, we're getting to the ceiling here with Leonard Fournette. I don't really think that he's worth a whole lot more. So I might, I don't know if I want to go 38 here. I don't think that I do. I think that I'm fine. 37 is a fine price. I really wanted him at 36, but I don't love the 38, and I'm going to pass. So I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get away from the running backs for a minute. We just don't seem to be able to do that. So I'm going to go back to the wide receiver position. Once again, I'm going to dip down a little bit. I'm going to see where things are right now on this young man, Deontay Johnson. So let's see what everyone wants to do with Johnson. That's a quick bid from Jim up to 17 bucks. Jim, you might get him for that. I don't know. There's not a very high opinion of Deontay Johnson. Nope, somebody's in for 18. And now we're on 19, and now we're at 20. So we're over the $20 mark on Deontay Johnson pretty quick. And as I suspected, that Jalen Waddle price is holding up really well. I definitely should have bid on that. That was a mistake. Byron got a nice deal on that. That Jalen Waddle price is holding up really well. Look at this $21 here for Deontay Johnson. I don't think that we're going to see a player of Waddle's caliber go for that price here for a little while now. So that's a good number. So Alexander, I know I got to get in here, buddy. I'm running my mouth, running my fat, wet mouth. Deontay Johnson went for 21. So now we've got a nomination for Aaron Jones for 23. And Jim's jumped it up to 40 pretty quick. Jim is not messing around tonight, folks. And once again, I don't know that I want to be in the 40s for Aaron Jones. I think it's okay. I'm fine with it. But I don't know that that's what I'm after. I really wanted him in the mid to upper 30s. And so I'm going to pass on that price. And it looks like Jim went to 40 bucks. Now, Jim, my buddy, my friend, love your auction skills, but you may be able to get him for a couple bucks cheaper. I don't think anybody was in on Taylor at that price. So Jim is just absolutely dominating my ass. Every time I'm thinking about a player, he runs him up there quick. That's why he's a tough customer. He is a tough customer. We've got Cole Kmet on the block, and he's currently going for $7. Sorry if I'm slurping water into the microphone. Got to keep my fat, wet mouth nice and lubed up. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I said that out loud. All right, so Aaron Jones went for $40. Deontay Johnson, 21. Cole Kmet went for 7. And I think that this is a perfect time to talk about Cole Kmet because that's one of those things where if you, Kevin, that's pretty funny. Is that from the show, Kevin? Getting fancy. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, Cole Kmet's one of those guys where I think that you can make an argument. Now, I don't hate the $7 price at all. People are plenty happy to be going after Cole Kmet at that price. But he's one of those guys where I think maybe if you wait on him, he may be cheaper later. I don't know though. Seven's right about, people are pretty excited about him. So we got Kyle Pitts now. He goes up. He goes for $24. I think that's a pretty reasonable price. Again, if I'm not running my mouth, I think that I probably should have bid on that. So we are definitely getting to the point where I'm going to have to make a move. And we got DK Metcalf up for bid now, and I've got him for $12. I don't think that's going to last. But I don't love DK Metcalf. In fact, I don't really like him that much. But, I mean, we're at that point in the draft where the money's starting to run down and people are starting to be a little bit more picky about who they want. And so that's why me and Byron, the ones with money, are bidding on DK Metcalf. I just don't love Metcalf at all. But I think that this is a reasonable price. So I think I have to do it. $16, I'll absolutely take him for that. Byron, hint, hint, I'm not going to pay any more. So yeah, that was my ceiling. I love it. So I get my first player at $16 from Metcalf. And with my builds, if you listen to me, that's going to be my wide receiver 3. And I absolutely love it. So, Metcalf's going to be one of those guys where he might be a little frustrating to have, but as a wide receiver 3, heck yeah, I'm going to stick him in there and I don't care. Every week that's totally fine. So I am not a huge Metcalf guy, but well, Matt, I'm not making any moves, brother. He was only $16. He's going to be my wide receiver 3. That is not a move, my good friend. So we're at Mark Andrews now, and he's at $26. And yeah, Alexander, that's my point. I'm when I pay 16, I know that he's going into my wide receiver 3 slot. Absolutely. So that's how I play that there. And I just think the price needs to get up there in the upper teens on Metcalf, and then I'm out. And as soon as I say 16, I know that's my ceiling, and that's totally fine with me. I'm fine. If somebody says 17, I'm cool. I'm out. But 16 is perfect because he's going to be my wide receiver 3. All right, so Austin Eckler here is 25. And of course, he's going to be bid up a little bit. And I'm going to go 37. I'll go 38. So we're on Austin Eckler for 38. And he's at 39. I'm going to offer 40 here because I think that we're running a little thin. Andrew's going to go to 41. All right, I think I'm out. We're a little okay. Now I feel a little bit better. He's up to 42. I think I'm out now. It's not that I don't like Austin Eckler, but trying to keep my RB1 in the upper 30s, maybe low 40s if I'm desperate, but I might end up tanking on RBs because it's been a really hot room for the running backs. And I think that I'm going to scoop up some values at wide receiver here later in the draft. So, I got to figure out what Hippie Juice wants over here. I got to get the Hippie into the bidding here. He's the only player with only team without a player. So, yeah, I don't mind the price on Andrews at all. $27 on Andrews. That's pretty nice considering what Kelsey went for, especially. And let's see what else we got here. Okay, so Antonio Gibson's on the clock. That's an interesting nomination. We continue to hammer away at running backs, and I find that that's really going to come to a head here at some point because we've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We got 13 running backs off the board already, and I believe that we are just at near the end of round 3. So Antonio Gibson just went for $12, and that's a really polarizing player because, again, it's one of those things where beauty's in the eye of the beholder here. On raw auction dollar value, that's a really low price, but some people don't even want him for $1. So, I think that this is one of those situations where you can make an argument that that price is good or bad. It's the same thing with Cam Akers. So we're at CeeDee Lamb now, and he's all the way up into the 40s. And again, we're pushing the top players up fairly high. And I understand that. That's completely reasonable. I think the mid-tier players, it's going to be a bit of a feast on the mid-tier players. But the question is, and this is one of those things where you have to start thinking about, am I going to have a first-round pick? So I've waited long enough that there aren't a lot of players left with first-round value. So I have to start thinking about when I'm going to get my impact players. And I think probably, there's a couple left, and I'm not going to have to go I'm not going to go crazy on some of these guys, but I might end up having put myself in a corner here with scarcity. And that's one of the things that you have to always be thinking about. When you wait too long and there's not enough top 15, top 12 players left, then you've got a scarcity issue and you're going to overpay. So that may be happening to me right here. I'm running my mouth and I'm not super focused here. Don't have my draft dominator, don't have my par sheet. So I'm definitely letting things go a little bit, but there's a couple guys I'm still fine with at running back, and there's a couple guys I still want at the top level at receiver. So I think I'm okay. A lot of the money is out of the room already. And on cue, we've got a nomination for Dalvin Cook, which I'm not surprised about. People are listening to me. They're going to know that I need a player like Cook. And of course, I'm not going to stop at 40. That is faux show. So I'm in on Cook at $41. I would guess that this is going to go up probably into the mid 40s, but if I get him for this price, I'm not super excited, but I'm okay with getting my RB1. Oh, he sniped me. It said 0. Do I want to make it 43? Yeah, I think I do. I think I'm going to go to 43 on Cook. And, that's probably as high as I'm going to go. I didn't really want to go to 43, but I think at this point, I'm going to have to spend that money. I think Barrett was bidding me up a little bit. He's probably listening to the feed. Jackson, ha ha. Thank you for stealing a couple dollars from me. But I'm happy with that. So I've got a good start here. So I've got Cook at my RB1 for $43. And then I've got DK Metcalf locked in as my wide receiver 3. And so what I like to do at this point now is I know where my draft is headed. All right. So I've spent some money and I know that my draft has to go one of a couple different ways. I'm either going to have to completely bail out of quarterback and tight end, or if I'm going to spend either one of those positions, I'm not going to have a very good wide receiver 1. So I got to pull some money from somewhere if I decide to spend at quarterback or tight end. But my guess is with this crew and the way things have gone, I'll probably be able to do okay at quarterback and tight end without spending a lot of money. So I'm guessing that I'm still going to go ahead and spend up at wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. And then after that, I'm just going to fill in with value. So at this point, my draft has really shrunk. And that's something that I like to talk about here. Oh, no, it's my turn to nominate. My draft has really shrunk to 3 positions. Okay, so I'm going to get somebody out here, and I want to find out what we're doing with this young man. So my draft has really shrunk to wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and RB2. Now, I'm probably going to bail out of RB2. So I really just want to focus on getting those top 2 receivers and then just really filling in from that point forward the value that I see coming on the board. And let me just say that after CD Lamb, we had Amari Cooper go for $12. I think that's a heck of a deal. I think people are way too down on Cooper. Just because it's Brissett throwing the ball doesn't mean he can't get the ball out, because he can, and he's a good thrower of the football. So it's not like he's an awesome quarterback, but he can move the offense. And I think Amari Cooper is getting way too much hate. I went for Dalvin Cook at 43. The Deebo Samuel went for 31. I think that's probably too low. And once again, I probably should have been paying attention. Nice job by Byron on getting Deebo for 31. I think that's a nice deal. And then Jerry Jeudy comes around for 13. I think that's also a nice deal. So I probably should have been in on 1 or 2 of those players. And here is a good lesson right now. The money in the room is getting thin. There's a couple players that have less than $50. There's quite a few players who have less than 100, and there's only really a few that can bid on the top level players at this point. And so I'm one of them. Hippie Juice is one of them. Byron's one of them. So at this point, Spokes is one of them. I'm going to keep going on Diggs here because I'm running my mouth. I'm going to lose every single player here. But I just spent 43 on Cooks. I'm probably not going to go up into the 40s to go after Diggs. I think that's a good price. So I'm happy to see him go up into the 40s because I do think that he should be going in the mid to low 40s. But I just don't want to spend 43 on Cook and then turn around and spend that on Diggs. So I'm going to shoot a little bit lower for my wide receiver 1, and I'm going to get 2 solid wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 types. And that's going to fill out my starting wide receivers. So let's see what we got in the chat here. Yeah, I agree, Matt. Good price on Deebo. Absolutely. I mean, I should have bid. I didn't even know. I didn't even know he was on the clock. That's how you succeed at auction drafts, baby, is not know who's on the clock. So let's see what we got here. I'll tell you what, Scrubs, it looks like he's logged out. He's got a max bid of $16 and $25 left. I think that's probably why he logged out. Now we got DeAndre Swift. So Diggs went for 43. DeAndre Swift is at 27. I'm going to go 28. I'm not planning on spending this much on an RB2, but I'm certainly not letting Swift go for that little. So I'm going to bid up to 30. Yeah, now we got it going on Swift. So I'll substitute a good wide receiver 2 for Swift if I end up getting Swift. I just think this price is too low. But you know what? He's going to get a good deal. And I don't want to go 35 because I just really don't want to spend that on 2 running backs. So good job, JP Grant. $34 on Swift. I love that price. And I told y'all there were some deals coming. The spending at the beginning was fast and furious. The deals were coming, and here they come. Because I think the Swift price is nice. I think that the Jeudy price is nice. The Samuel price is nice. The Cooper price is nice. So here we go. So this is that point where you can feel, I talk about the inflection points all the time. This is one of those inflection points. The draft has turned, and I probably missed it by a few players, and I'm behind, and I didn't take advantage of it. So Lamar Jackson's on the clock now at $15. So I'm probably a little bit behind, but you notice this inflection point happening, and here we see the deals start to come. And if you had waited long enough, you could have ended up with Swift and Deebo and these guys for a fraction of the price of some of the earlier buys. So we're talking about Breece Hall now. Lamar Jackson went for $15. Now we got Breece Hall, and he's going for 20 to Jim Coventry right now. So let me go over the roster so far and see what we've got. Scrub and Scrubs, true to his name. It looks like Stars and Scrubs roster here. Josh Allen, Brian Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Travis Kelce, Leonard Fournette, and Cole Kmet. And he's pretty much out of commission with that money he's spent there. Surge has got Mahomes, Jefferson, Chase, Deontay Johnson, Mark Andrews. He's also pretty much out of commission, but holy cow, that is a bit of a murderer's row there, folks. He's got Mahomes, Jefferson, Chase, Deontay Johnson, Mark Andrews. Wow. But he's also out of the auction at this point. So he's really going to have to work hard late in the draft. All right, so I'm not letting Trey Lance go for $5. I've got him at 6. Be happy with him at 6. I'm probably not going to go to 8. So yeah, I'm going to let him go at 7. That's totally fine, but I definitely was not going to let him go for 5. So yeah, so Trey Lance for $7. That's a nice deal. Brees Hall went for $21. Here's the thing with quarterbacks. I have a feeling there's a cliff coming, and I don't need to spend 7 on Lance when I'm going to spend, 6 or 5 or 4 or 8 or 9 later. I don't really care who I get in there. I'm not going to handcuff myself at this point. Lance for 7, perfectly good price. And 8, it's debatable whether I should have hit 8 or not. That's not really in my plans. But oh, okay. Well, I'm not letting Javonte Williams go for 25. So you've heard me say that a lot tonight already, and this is interesting because I'm really doing this by the seat of my pants and knowing values. I'm not letting Javonte Williams go in the 20s. It's just not happening. Now, if he gets up into the 30s, that's fine, and I'm probably just going to back off. But I'm not letting him go in the 20s. And yeah, I'll take him for 28. That's fine. So now here's something that's interesting. This is an inflection point for me. You've heard me talk about league inflection points. That happened a little while ago, maybe about a round ago, about 10, 12 picks ago. But this is an inflection point for me now because I had not planned on spending $28 on an RB2. But I love the price on Javonte Williams. I think I think when you talk about asymmetrical drafting, you got to talk about Javonte Williams because he is the poster child for what we call asymmetrical drafting. And that means that, yes, he's in a split, but he's young, he's good, he's going to be in a really good offense, and he's all upside at that price. At $28, all he's going to do, that's his floor. If he gets any more work, if Gordon gets hurt, if anything happens in that Broncos offense to just, look, they've got Russell Wilson, just a rising tide lifts all boats. That's asymmetrical drafting. I love Javonte Williams as an RB2. I wasn't planning on spending that, but now I'm going to hack off a little money off of my wide receiver too. And, we're going to use that money in a different way. So that's totally fine. I'm really happy with that price. That's the first good thing I feel like I've done in this draft. So, Alexander, I don't have a tier list. Football Guys has a price list. I'm thinking about creating a tier list next year and selling a tier list and par sheets to anybody who wants them. So that is something I'm considering for next year, but I've not gotten to it this year. I'm not letting Tyreek Hill go for 24. Yeah, 25. That ain't happening here. So let's go 26 and 27. Do I want to go 28? Yeah, he's going to have to be my wide receiver 1, though. So, okay. Well, at 29, I'm probably out. Not that I can't afford him, but I'm not that worried about him. So, gosh, I'd really love to be able to scroll over. To be able to see the other side of the board. It's a little frustrating. Okay, Darnell Mooney. Tyreek Hill went for $30. Now Darnell Mooney's on the clock. He's going for 8 right now. I've got him for 8. I'm absolutely going to look at Darnell Mooney for that price. $10 now to Tom. Does anybody know how to scroll the screen over? I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry that you guys can't see my team. So I can show you my team in the bottom right here. But all I've got is Javonte Williams at 28, Cook at 43, and Metcalf at 16. Let's go through a few of the other teams. I started to do that before. We've got Auction Andrew here with Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler. That is a monster start, but he's got nobody else on his team, so he'll be looking to make a play here in a little while. We're at Saquon Barkley now, and I'm pretty much out on the rest of the running backs, unfortunately, because I got the Javonte Williams price. I am pretty much out on these level of running backs. It looks like Andrew's got him for $31. He's going to make a splash. Nope. Byron's jumping in. So Mooney went for 15. Let's talk about a couple of these other teams. Barrett's team has Christian McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp for $115, and that's all he has. Spokes and Beer has Lance for 7, Najee for 41, Pierce for 11, and Diggs for 43. Byron has Waddle for 17, Lamb for 41, Debo for 31, Pitts for 24, and Tyreek for 30. That is a heck of a wide receiver core there, Byron. Waddle, Lamb, Samuel, and then Hill in the flex. That's a nice job. Hippie Juice has Lamar Jackson, Gibson, and Breece Hall, and that's all he's got, but he's got a lot of money left. And we're waiting on a nomination here. Jim Coventry has Cam Akers and Elijah Mitchell, Gabe Davis, Amari Cooper, Darnell Mooney, Aaron Jones. So he's got a really solid core. We're on Ezekiel Elliott, and I definitely going to be in on him at this price. $16 right now for Zeke. Brad's got Joe Mixon and Jerry Jeudy. He's biding his time. He's got a lot of money left. And Grant has... There's no way you guys are going to let me have him for 16, right? Yeah, what the heck? I mean, this is kind of silly. Yeah, we need to be bidding here, but at this point, I'm probably out. But gosh, so Grant has Mack and Chubb and Carter and Swift, and then I have my 3 players. It is my turn to nominate, so give me just a second here. And I'm out on these running backs that are going to cost in the 20s and 30s. But boy, I did not expect Zeke to go for 19. So let me do something interesting here. Let's see how much everyone hates Miles Sanders. So I've got Miles Sanders up for $1. Byron's got him for 2. I'll go 3. How much do we hate Miles Sanders, everybody? Let's play a little game. Control and mouse zooms in and out. Yeah, I tried that. Okay, God, thank you. I tried that earlier, and it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Thank you, guys. This is why y'all are here. All right. Isn't that better? We can see everything going on now. So what's interesting about what's happening now is we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are around $100. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 teams that are around $100. So there's still going to be plenty of money in the room to chase some of these players here. And I think it's going to be really interesting what happens between a couple of these guys that have money left. And I'm one of them, but I'm on the low end of those people that have the money left. So thanks, Alexander and John. And Chris, that's a great question. He asked, what's my par sheet? So in this draft, I'm running with a real typical par sheet. And I'm going to be honest with you folks. I am just way too busy. I had court today. I was putting out TikTok videos, trying to grind content. I don't have a par sheet tonight. You can all roundly boo me, do whatever you want, say whatever you want. I'm sorry I don't have a par sheet. But it's a real typical build. It's something that I'm very familiar with. I like to go heavy on my RB1, completely dump out of RB2, and go heavy on wide receiver 1, 2, and 3. Now, I had to change that plan up a little bit because I want to go really cheap at quarterback and tight end. That's still in play. But I went for Javonte Williams as my RB2 because the $28 price was just too good and I didn't want to pass that up. So I got Williams and Cook, and now I'm going to have to dump out of wide receiver 1 and get a lower level of wide receiver 1 and 2 going. So not that I'm going to have somebody crappy, just that it's not going to be the level that I'm used to. So I would have gone for a Diggs or somebody like that in the low 40s. Instead, I'm going to end up with a guy in the upper 20s or low 30s. And then my wide receiver 2, instead of being like a $25 or $30 guy, he's going to have to be a $18 to $22 guy. So I know the par sheet pretty much because I've been using it. So it's sort of the same. Yeah, I'm not letting Mike Evans go there. I need my wide receiver 1. So, gosh. So we're going to try to go. So I'm probably okay with letting this go at $30. I think that I'm still going to be able to get a wide receiver 1 that I like right around in this range. Mike Evans isn't my favorite guy. I know that's sacrilege, but I think that's a very good price for Mike Evans. It's solid. It's not amazing, but it's very solid. I like to see these guys going in the upper 20s for me to feel real comfortable about it. All right, so now Tom Brady's up, and at this point, like I do not care what quarterback I get. You're literally not going to get me to care. So I'm just going to try to get a guy that's going to be $5 or $6. And if I get a guy that's $5 or $6, then he's my guy, and peace out. I'm done. And so I've got Brady winning right now for $6. If he goes for 6, I'm totally stoked by that. Yep, love it. Brady for 6. I don't know why everybody can't stand Brady this year. I don't get that. I understand that he doesn't run, but dude led the league in attempts, yards, and touchdowns last year. I still think he's got it. I understand that they have a little bit of of guys that they've lost there with Gronk and Godwin maybe not being full speed yet, but they signed Gage and Julio Jones, and I think they're going to be just fine. He's Tom Brady. So I'd love getting my quarterback one locked down for $6. And where are we? Connor's going for 20. See, now this is that time in the draft where James Connor's worth more than $21. And that's a really nice price that Byron's about to get here. But there just isn't enough money in the room. So one of the things that I talked about when it came to the Kings Classic is um, Matt, par sheets are important, but less important than TikTok. Right now, yes. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Matt. I really wanted to be better prepared for this, but really it's just about getting the content out. We got 9 days left before really the Labor Day weekend when everybody's drafting and the content doesn't matter anymore. So I got to get that stuff out. So apologies for not having a par sheet. I am a fraud, ladies and gentlemen. James Conner went for $21. I like that price. And what I was going to start saying is that I talked about this in my article about the Kings Classic the other day because gosh, why is Hawkinson so cheap too? I'm bidding 7. There's no way that's happening. And again, if I'm going to get my tight end one as TJ Hawkinson for $7, like sign me up. I don't, that's a great deal. I don't know why everyone hates TJ Hawkinson this year, but I'm probably not going to go to 9 just because that's not what I planned on doing. But so what I was talking about was that when I faced a scarcity issue at the Kings Classic, one of the things that I forgot and that I did not plan or I didn't properly calculate in my head how much money was left in the room. And David Montgomery's up, and I've got him for $12 again. I'm going to have to flex him if I win him, but gosh, these prices are silly, and people are a little too scared of David Montgomery. But yeah, what I was saying is that the scarcity calculation that I did in my head was that there was really only one running back left that was going to be worth much, and that was Joe Mixon. So I jumped in and got Aaron Jones at $38. Now Mixon ended up going for 32, and I thought that he was going to go much higher than that. And the only reason that that happened was there wasn't enough money left in the room. And that's what we're experiencing here. David Montgomery just went for $13. James Conner went for 21. I know these aren't top of the line players. I know these aren't awesome guys. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we're all dumb. Why did we do that? But what I am saying is that early on in the draft, when the prices were so high, we knew that this was coming. And it appears that the cliff is here because there just isn't enough money left in the room to push some of these guys up higher than they're going. Connor shouldn't be 21. Montgomery shouldn't be 13. Now, I'm not saying Connor's a $35 guy, but he should be 25, $26. Montgomery should be $18, $20 player. He's going to get 250 touches. I don't care if it is a committee. He's going to get plenty of touches this year. So Jalen Hurts just went for $8. And again, this is what's going to happen at quarterback. We're going to see a real cliff here at quarterback. And there is a couple nice quarterbacks left. And I'm probably going to get one of those out because I'm now in money wasting territory because I've got to let the draft come back to me a little bit. There's some guys with more money than me, and I want to be able to control things down the road here. So now I'm going to shift into money wasting time, and I'm going to end up, I still need a wide receiver one here. So Keenan Allen's on the clock. So I'm going to get involved here, but I'm going to get into targeted nominations. So I'm going to start saying, okay, this guy has a lot of money left. He doesn't have a quarterback. I'm going to start nominating quarterbacks. Or he doesn't have a wide receiver. I'm going to start nominating wide receivers. Whatever the case may be, that's what I'm about to do. Oh, I love it. Hallelujah. Did you guys feel bad for me that I'm running my FWM and you gave me Keenan Allen for $26? I mean, I know he's not a world beater, but that's exactly what I wanted to do. After paying all that money on Javonte Williams, absolutely love the $26 for Keenan Allen. Now he's going to be my wide receiver one because I paid up for for wide receiver or running back 2 when I didn't expect to. So he's going to be my wide receiver 1. Then I'm going to get another solid wide receiver 2, just like DJ Moore here, who's on the clock. So it's $24. I'm bidding 25 for DJ Moore. It's up at 26. I'm willing to go 27. I got plenty of money left. And I need another solid wide receiver, too. He's one of the best guys left. If he goes for 27, I'm happy. And let's give it to me. Yes. I get 2 players in a row, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore for 26 and 27. Absolutely love it. So now I'm filling out this roster here. I've got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, and I'm really stoked about that. So it's money wasting time for me. I'm going to start wasting people's cap here. So I'm going to call out some high-level quarterbacks. Somebody's asking in the chat, why is Herbert still on the board? He's about to not be on the board, Axel. Thank you for the comment, because that is absolutely right. I was about to go for the top quarterback on the board when it's my nomination. So Herbert will be coming out next for me anyway. I'm down to $54. Now, this is not a position I really love to be in all the time because I want to control the draft, but I'm really excited about what I've got for the money. And I don't need a lot of my top level players left. So I only need a flex and a tight end. And I was dumping out a tight end in the first place. So at this point, I'm feeling great because I'm going to get one more impact player, folks. Don't think that I'm out on the bidding here for another receiver or running back. I'm going to get one more impact player with that $54. And then I'm just going to fill in with value and low end value because this is a 12-teamer. I'm fine with what the waiver wire is going to look like. I'm really happy with my team so far. George Kittle just went for $17. And I'm going to be in play for one of the top level wide receivers still to come. So there are a lot of people who need wide receivers, and I'm feeling good that I've got 3 of them already that I like. So let's see what we're doing here. We're at Herbert. Herbert's at $7. This is wild. Justin Herbert's at $7. Nope, now he's at 8. So yeah, if you had to ask me, would I rather have Tom Brady for $6, which is who I have, or would I rather have Justin Herbert for 9? Of course, I'd rather have Herbert. But now he's up to 10, so I'm feeling a little bit better. I do like the $4 discount. But, man, Justin Herbert for $10, that's a nice deal. Tom knows what he's doing. All right, so like I said, I'm in money-wasting territory now. We're going to get Kyler Murray out there because, once again, let's get this money spent. And I'm not going to get Kyler Murray. So, I mean, if you guys want me to have him for $1, you can stick me with him. But, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And so at this point, I feel like I got to waste some money and I got to waste some rounds. I got to let this draft come back to me. I got $54. It's not terrible. I'm ahead of quite a few other teams, but I got to let it come back to me. So where are we with? Okay, now we've got Kyler Murray up to $8. And I don't know how everyone feels. I'm going to type in the chat here, but if y'all are listening to me, how do you feel about me making the clock 10 seconds on the bidding instead of 30 seconds once we get a little bit further here? All right, so I think we're going to lower the bid clock to 10 seconds to get this thing moving now that we've had some time to do some commentary and to get into the early stuff here. So yeah, everybody's down. Okay, so I'm going to do that after this bid. I don't know if I can pause it real quick, but all right, let's hear some chatter from the YouTube channel. John, don't get points for mass singing. I know. Yes, John, you're right. Much better 10 seconds for a viewing experience. I totally agree. I wanted to have time to run my mouth early in the draft, but at this point, T. Higgins is up for $36. That's a little bit higher than I thought he would go. I thought I might have a chance at Higgins for the low 30s, and so I was completely wrong on that. All right, guys, let me see if I can pause this. Okay, I'm pausing the draft, and we are going to change the settings to a 10-second rundown on offering. Okay, updated, and we're going to get right back at it. So it's going to be more fun for everybody here. And we are going to resume, and we're back on. So we are now bidding a little bit quicker. We're going to get this thing moving now because it is 9:30. We've been on the air for an hour. But I don't think we're doing too bad. We're through 5 rounds. Things speed up considerably when there's less bidding to do. So now we got Darren Waller on the clock, and it's going a lot quicker now. He's at $12. That's a nice deal from Jim incoming. Great job, Jim. $12 on Darren Waller. That's a heck of a deal. Jim continues to follow his all right. Yeah, excellent. So, okay, this is going a lot quicker. I love it. All right, so now we're on AJ Dillon. He's one of my favorite auction targets, folks. I'm telling you right now. Love AJ Dillon this year because he's going to be like, $12 or something like that, or $14. And I think he's going to get plenty of playing time in that offense. So I don't think that it's in the cards for me to go after Dillon, but Chris asked, is this a point where I'm going to throw out a defense? Chris, that's a great question. No, I don't want to use that quite yet. I want to say that till about 3/4 of the way through the draft when I don't want to call out anybody. Because at this point, there's still plenty of players. There's a lot of guys that I'm happy with, and there's a lot of guys that I really don't want. So I'm still in money wasting mode at this point. I don't like to do money wasting in the first couple of rounds because I like to figure out where I'm going. But later in the draft, I'm in money wasting mode. Or right now I'm in money wasting mode. Later in the draft, I want to be in like completely punting. So like guys that I just have zero interest in owning or rostering. And that's when I'm going to use my kicker and my D later on. And I noticed that nobody has called out a kicker or D yet, which is interesting. And I love it. I don't know if y'all are disciples of the show, but I absolutely love it. And think that is fantastic auction strategy. So AJ Dillon went for $15, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. He's the kind of guy that I would normally have as my RB2 and not Javonte Williams at 28. But I couldn't go for Dillon because I had already locked up the more expensive RB2. Josh Jacobs just went off the board for $9. Again, that's a player that if you're going with a 0 RB build in auctions, it's so much easier in auctions than it is in a snake draft. Because Jacobs is the kind of guy where people just don't care enough to bid. And so he's going to be super cheap. And if you're going 0 RB, Josh Jacobs as your RB2, he's a perfect RB2 in this kind of a build where you want to go 4 deep at wide receiver. So that's what I love about auctions. In a snake, you don't want to take Jacobs where he's going. I don't want to draft him at all where he's going unless he drops 3-4 rounds. But in this thing, $9, that's perfect. And, he's good depth, or he can be your RB2 in a 0 RB build. So let me hear some more questions from the YouTube channel if you got them. Let me slurp some water here. So now's at the point where I'm going to be trolling for a cheap tight end. I don't necessarily want to spend nothing, but I want to spend less than $8 at this point, I believe. I'll spend 8, and that'll actually be my max. If somebody wants to take Goddard for 9, yeah, you can have him for 9. It's not necessarily, I don't really actually want to spend 8, but I think Goddard's totally worth 8, and you can't let him go for 8. So, I got to get it up there. That's a market price thing. That's not about bidding someone up. I just feel like Goddard is one of those guys that I'm happy to have in the mid-tier. I don't like a lot of mid-tier guys, but Goddard and Hawkinson, I think they're going too cheap, and I think that might be something that I need to be thinking harder about, spending that couple extra bucks, because I talk about the quarterback value gap. And you know what? I got to tell you, I think the tight end value gap is becoming a real thing as well, because I really believe that. All right, so now Mike Williams, let me do a little bit of thinking here about who's left. I think we got plenty of wide receivers. I'm going to grab one more wide receiver. 24 is a decent price, but I think I'm going to. Oh, I've got Keenan Allen. What am I thinking? No way in hell am I bidding on Mike Williams. All right, so yeah, I'm not very locked in here, folks. Sorry about that. But I think there's a value gap at quarterback, and I've been talking about this for a couple years now. There are plenty of people in your draft who don't want to spend on quarterback, and there are plenty of people who do. And so you're finding that there is a little bit of a sweet spot where you can get some of the better players that are not replacement level like Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr, but they're not the top level guys, and you can still get them for $6 to $8 and really do well. Now that hasn't happened very well in this draft, but I think tight end is trending that direction as well. I think that you can end up with a $7 or $8 Dallas Goddard this year or T.J. Hawkinson, and I think that's okay. Dalton Schultz might be a guy that could draw that kind of money as well. But now we got our first nomination for defense. That's Jim, and he's nominated the Chargers for $2. So he's trying to ensure that he's going to get the Chargers for $2 and nobody's going to bid three. And he's correct on that. The Chargers go for $2. So that's a strategy you can use. If you feel like you got a couple bucks and you want to get a defense and you think, I'm not going to pay three, you can just bid. You can start it out at two and nobody's going to pay three. Or if they pay three, you let them go. So now we got Allen Robinson on the clock, and Jim's going to pay his max bid of $15. He'll be quickly outbid here. I'm going to let everyone know I'm still in play for Robinson, but there's some guys with some money here. We got 3 guys over $80 left. So I would guess that at some point they're going to start making a play for some of these wide receivers. They certainly need to. They both need wide receivers. I really don't want to bid 25 on Robinson, so I'm going to let him go because that's my max bid right now is 45. I'm looking to find a flex wide receiver in the upper teens. That would be good for me. 25 is just a little bit too rich. So again, I'm in money wasting mode. I'm going to try to fill out some of these quarterback spots, but I'm also going to try to fill out some of these wide receiver spots because let's be honest. I'd love to have Michael Pittman, and he's still sitting there on the board, but I'm not going to get Michael Pittman because one of these guys with $80 is going to get him. So that's where. Oh, and speak of the devil, Michael Pittman has been nominated. I'm going to run that number up there into the upper teens as quickly as I can, and then I'm going to let him go. So now Hippie Juice is jumping in here. He's going to get his flex player. That's who he wants here. He's got 25, 26, now 27. This is interesting because there's 3 guys with over 70, $80, and we may see an inflation buy here. So he's up to $30, and we've seen some guys. That's $30, and that's not a bad price, but it is more than the mid-20s that have been happening recently. So, okay, I'm going to throw out somebody. Again, I'm in money-wasting mode here. So I'm going to get the next top quarterback out there. I know it's not a lot of money. It's filling a roster spot. It's allowing me to punt a nomination for another round, and it's allowing somebody to spend $6, $7 on a quarterback. So it's not that big a deal, but it's one of those things where I want to be out right now because I've only got $45. I don't want to nominate any of the players that I'm looking at that are the top of the board. I want these guys with the $80, $90 to start spending some money. And I'm going to let this thing come back to me for a little bit more. I've spent my money. I'm happy with my team, but I got to wait a little bit. So I got to have some patience here. Chris asks, have you figured out a build you like with paying for a top tight end? Yeah, I do. And really what it comes down to is I go a little bit cheaper at RB1, and then I go a little bit less deep at wide receiver. Because my thing has always been that at wide receiver, I like to get 5 wide receivers that I really like. And so that's hard to do. And so what I'll do is I'll pull money from wide receiver, and I'll only go 4 deep at wide receiver, and I'll get a couple flyer 5 and 6. My wide receiver 5 and 6 will be $3, $4 players. Instead of normally I'll go my wide receiver 5 sometimes is going to be $15 because I like getting 5 guys that I really like. And if I miss on one of them, I can still start 4 good ones. And I think, it's been successful for me in the past. And now we're on Cortland Sutton. He's one of those guys that, that I want to fall to me, but isn't going to happen because there's too much money left in the room. So he's at $25. And, I'm comfortable with letting these guys go that are at the top of the wide receiver tier stuff. We're talking about Sutton and Pittman, and now we got Marquise Brown and Godwin and Cooks, Michael Thomas. All these guys, there's plenty of wide receivers left, but all these guys with money left are going to end up scooping them up for the mid-20s. So that's why I was a little bit surprised on the Pittman price. But, again, it's in the eye of the beholder. Spokes may have him valued at $33, and he's happy with Pittman at 30. I don't want that at 30. But I think it's right around that neighborhood where I see him go. If you want Michael Pittman this year, you're going to pay $30. So I think that's an interesting thing here. So Brandon Cooks now is on the clock, and he's 20. And again, we're getting into that territory where there's enough people with money that these guys are just, there's enough scarcity here, and people are starting to notice the wide receiver ranks thinning out. We're going to be paying over $20 for quite a few of these guys left. Marquise Brown, Godwin, Cooks, Thomas. That's where we are in the draft. All right, so Cooks just went for 22. Once again, Tom with a great eye for value. I don't want to be drafting against Tom. I'm just going to say that. Tom knows what he's doing. He's picked up some nice deals today. Cordero Patterson is on the clock. That's an interesting nomination. I love it. Absolutely, I'm offering $3. Give them to me. Nope. Okay. So, Chris, I think I answered your question. I'm just going to not be able to go as deep as I want at wide receiver. I'm not going to pay as much as I would at running back normally. And then I'm definitely going bargain basement, Kirk Cousins type at quarterback. And that's how you build with a tight end that way. But again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I just don't like that build. I don't like how that makes my team look. So it isn't that it can't be done. I just don't like it. It's a personal preference thing. So Cordero Patterson went for $8. That's pretty cheap. But once again, I think people are waiting on some players that are coming up. There's a lot of depth left at wide receiver. I'm hoping to still get 2 of them. And I think that there's a lot of people in this room still hoping to get 2 more of them. So it's going to be an interesting finish to this thing, because we're definitely seeing a cliff on some of the lower tier guys. So tiers, wide receiver 3-4 types, we're seeing more of a cliff. Running back types like that, Patterson just went for 8. Allen Lazard just went for 11. This is where we are. People are saving for Marquise Brown, Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Juju, Thielen, Bateman. There's still a lot of guys. Drake London. There's a lot of wide receivers left. People are saving their money. Now might be one of those times where you think, hey, I can nominate this running back that nobody gives a crap about, and you might be able to get him for $6 or $7, and you can fill out a back of your roster type spot. So you have to start thinking about those kind of nominations. I'm still in money wasting mode, at least in my head. There's a couple guys that need to spend some money, but Dak Prescott just went for 6. And I'm going to be off the quarterbacks now. Most of the top quarterbacks are gone. Most of the people have a quarterback. That's not getting me anywhere now. So now Bateman's up, and he's at $7. So again, we are getting to that point where a lot of money is going to be chasing about 15 wide receivers coming up. And it's going to be really interesting how that shakes out. So I still need a tight end. I still need 1 more wide receiver that I really like. And then I'm feeling pretty good about my team. So I'm not going to do a whole lot fancy. I'm going to go get 1 more wide receiver, a decent tight end, and 2 bench players that I like. And that's what I'm going to spend my $45 on. This is a 12-teamer. I'm not going to have a whole lot at the back of my roster. I like to build much more top heavy and pay much more for my lineup than I do in a deeper league. All right. So any more questions from the peanut gallery? We still got 15 people holding strong watching this thing. That's fantastic. I love the hardcore auction people in here. So the recap is last player was Bateman for 14. That's a little bit of a depressed price. Now we got James Robinson on the clock. I'm in on him for $3. And he's at 4. Should I go for 5? I don't think so. That's over 10% of my max at this point. I like James Robinson, but I don't care about him that much as compared to what I'm going to get for the rest of the draft. Brad, that's a nice deal, because I do think that near the end of the season, he's going to be a heck of a guy to have. So you've got him as your RB4, and that's exactly what you want to do. That's how you mitigate the risk on him. So Travis Etienne is now on the clock, and he is at $16. Again, one of those guys that I think should go up into the mid-20s, and he may not here. But there are a couple people with money. Let's see what happens here. Barrett has money left. JP Grant has money left. He's in on it at $19. And Brad has money left. So we're going to see if this is going to go. Wow, $19 to JP Grant. Great deal. That's what having money gets you at this phase in the draft. And, of course, I have a little bit of FOMO there at $19 on ETN. All right. Waddle is a great buy, Chris. I told you that when it happened. I should have bid. You're absolutely. Oh yeah, just see your message. You called it at the time. I figured that was going to be a good deal. I don't know why I didn't do something about that. That was a mistake on my part. And at the time, I thought, gosh, I think that seems low because we're probably going to be in the mid to low 20s for a lot of these guys. Waddle, great price by Byron. Now we're on Chris Godwin. He's up to $11. And I'm going to bid 13 on him. Nope, somebody else is in on him for 13. I'll go 14. I think he's a fantastic. Nope, didn't get him. 15 to Brad. All right, so now we're getting that territory that I don't care too much about. 17 on Godwin. I could go 18 here. I do have the money. I really only want to finish out with a couple more guys, but I don't care too much about that price. So now he's up to 19, and now I'm good. So the first kicker just went off the board. Jim Coventry got his kicker for $1. And that's something that I'm going to start thinking about here because the draft isn't coming back to me fast enough. We are about through, let's see, we're about through 7 rounds here. We've only got about 9 rounds, so we're about halfway through. This is earlier than I want to use my kicker and denomination, so I'm not going to go there yet. But I'm starting to think about it because the draft's not coming back to me like I wanted it to yet. So I'm getting a little impatient with that. And I think that it's possible that I'm going to need to punt a few times before I get what I want out of this. Now we've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the clock. He's going for $17 right now. I think he's one of the top running backs left. Yeah, he is the top running back left. And he goes for $17. All right. So Spokes had some money a little bit ago. Now he is running low on money. So that is one of the things I've been looking to happen. So, all right. So I'm still in money wasting mode. I'm not opposed to Tony Pollard, but he's a guy that I like to draw $6 or $8 out of the room. And I can just pass on him and not be too concerned about spending the money on him. I don't care if he goes for $4. Like, honestly, I'm not going to have Pollard with the build I've got right now. So I don't care what he goes for. It fills a roster spot from somebody and it spends a few bucks, and I'm totally fine with that. So Hippie Juice, $6. That's a great price. I like the price, but that's a roster filler for me. And not that I don't like the player and don't think that that's a good price. It's just not what I'm doing right now. So I'm only probably going to get one more reasonably priced running back, and then the rest of my running backs are going to be absolute trash. Just warning you. That's what I do in this kind of a build. All right, so we're on Marquise Brown now. So this is going to be an interesting price because there's some guys with money left, and he is, I believe, the top wide receiver left on the board. So we're going to see a nice little bidding war for Marquise Brown. I'm not expecting to land him for a reasonable price. I'm thinking that I'm going to have to back off when he gets into the upper teens. But I don't know. It's running down to $15 right now. I'd be totally happy with him for $15. Andrew had to do it. He had to do it. Well, he needs his second running back or his second wide receiver. And now Spokes has jumped in for $17. I thought I was about to land Marquise Brown for 15. I was feeling real good about that. But now I'm out on him for 18. He goes for 17. I think I'm out there. So now Dalton Schultz is on the clock. A quick auto nomination. We've got an auto player now because their max bids are essentially $2 to $3 here. So now we're in on Dalton Schultz. I'm good on Schultz for 5. Now he's up to 6. I think 7's completely reasonable. I'll pay 7 for Schultz. But again, when he starts to get up the $8, $9, $10 range, I'm just not that interested. Not that it's not worth it, but right now where I'm sitting in this draft, I'm happy to let him go for that price. Alexander, I will look into doing a super flex auction. I understand people like those. I really do. I will look into it. All right, we're at $11 for Schultz. I'm happy about that because I think that's fine. That's a fine price. In fact, I think the tight end prices and the quarterback prices in general show that we got a tough room here. People know what they're doing. They're not spending too much on those positions. And so I think $11 in a normal auction, I think it's probably going to be more than that for Schultz. That's a nice deal, but I just can't spend it right now. So now it's coming back to me. Barrett's the only guy in the room with a lot of money left. He's got $77. But now I'm in the position I want to be in. I've got 54, and nobody else has more money than me except for Barrett. So now the prices are going to be more what I'm wanting to pay at this point. And so I'm hoping to scoop up 3 or 4 more players as opposed to 2 more. So now that the drafts come back to me a little bit, let's see what I can do here. I don't have a ton of money compared to these other 2 guys that are in the 40s, but I do have a significant amount more than a lot of the guys in the 20s, and some guys are below 20 bucks. So we've got Chris Olave on the clock now. He's up to $6, and again, I'm looking at some other guys that I really want as opposed to a Olave type. I don't think that's a bad price. He goes for $6, but that's not in my plans right now. Barrett's going to nominate. Barrett nominates Kareem Hunt, and I'm in on Hunt for 5. So maybe I'm going to get him for 5. Nobody has any money. Yeah, I ended up with Hunt for 5. That's fabulous price. Absolutely love it. He's my RB3. That is just money. I know people don't like Kareem Hunt. I don't get it, but Alexander, yeah, I don't mind Superflex auctions, but I'm trying to do this for the most appeal out there, the mass appeal. And I believe that we in our Twitter bubble think that more people do Superflex than really actually do. So I think that, I'm going to do it at some point. I don't know if I'm going to get it in this year. I really want to do it. And I think that Sunday night, it's very possible. So I'm going to look into doing one Sunday night. So Hunt for $5. Man, oh man, I got to go back to that. I am stoked about that because Kenny Gainwell turns around and goes for $5. That's fine as well. I just think Hunt is a $12 to $15 player. So $5 tells you about the scarcity in the room. And Rashad Penny just went for 9. Now we're really cooking. We are really buying some players quick here. And we're almost to the end of round 9. And so now we're getting into that territory where I might start to think about my kicker and defense nomination because I don't really want to be spending much money for some of these. Gosh, Damian Harris is going cheap. $7. Boy, oh boy. That is pretty cheap. But yeah, I don't want to be spending any money at this point. So I don't want to get a guy for $4, $5, $6. And I think that's what a lot of people are thinking. We're trying to still get the white meat at the top. And some of us with money are thinking, all right, well, then I'm going to get X, Y, and Z. And we're saving our money. So these players like Damian Harris going for $7, Rashad Penny for $9. Those are too low. Those prices are too low. But there's not enough money, and the people who have the money aren't interested. So Zay Jones just went for $1. And we are really cruising now. We're about to hit the end of the 8th round. DeAndre Hopkins is on the clock. DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that you really should be paying attention to in your auctions. You might be able to get him for a price that you don't think you can get him for. And if you can hang on and draft a deep team, then he's going to go for a price that might allow you to really have a monster team in the second half. So $9, gosh, that is really cheap. Jackson has the money, so he gets him, and he goes for $9. That's way too cheap. I wanted to bid 10, but I still want to get a couple more impact players, and so I passed. But that's a great deal. Hopkins is one of those guys that he's not coming off of an injury. He's coming off of a suspension. So hopefully he's not going to, get some ramping up like soft tissue injury before he comes back. But absent that, it's a fantastic opportunity in auctions. You should be looking at him in every auction. Now we got Adam Thielen up for bid, and he's $9. Yeah, I'll go for $10 for Thielen. This is one of those, I just need one more wide receiver. I don't want to spend a lot of money, but if I can get a reasonably priced receiver below, $15 or below, that's what I'm going to be doing. I did not expect to get Hunt so cheap, so that's fantastic. So now I got Thielen for $12. I love that. Now I'm feeling really good because Thielen's my wide receiver 4, and that's perfect. That's exactly where I want Adam Thielen to be. Okay, how about we get Amon-Ra St. Brown out there, because I'm probably not now. I'm instantly going to go to a money waster here because I know I'm not going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be too expensive. There's too much money with some savvy players here. I'm not going to end up with him. I spent 12 on Thielen. I can't spend 12 on St. Brown. So I'm instantly going to get him out there to try to waste some money. I'm hoping that Barrett gets him because at this point, that's my main competition for money left in the room. After buying Thielen, I do have now Brad and JP have as much money as I do now. So there's really four of us with the money controlling the action here. And Barrett's got the most. He's in on Amon Ra for 17. And I was hoping, folks, that was a targeted nomination. I'm not saying that Barrett did anything wrong here, but that was a targeted nomination for me. I wanted to have Barrett spend some money. He needs to get some money out there. And now he's down to 51. He's come back to the pack a little bit. He's got some really nice players, but he's come back to the pack a little bit, and that's what I was hoping to see. Now we're on Michael Thomas. He's at 17 bucks, and that's one of those players that I thought might spend some money as well. That's sort of why I jumped on Thielen, because I was thinking that some of these last couple guys might be 15 to 20, and I didn't really want to spend that. So I really want to get one more impact player, and that's really all I care about. At this point, folks, you've heard me talking about dropping the hammer. That's where we're at. If you listen to my show, you know that I like to drop the hammer, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. I think that at this point, I just need to get my tight end and figure out how much my tight end is going to cost. And then I'm going to buy one more player that I care about. And then I'm done. So Drake London just goes for 10 after Michael Thomas for 19. So again, the money in the room is low now. I have the third most money in the room. Barrett's come back to the pack. Brad and JP still have a lot of money left, or still have $45 and $41. So they're going to be competing with me for good, one of these last couple good players. So I'm going to try to jump on one of them because I don't care how much I spend. I'm going to get a cheap tight end, and this is probably going to be one of my last players here. So $9 for Juju Smith-Schuster. He's up to 10. Now he's at 11. Yeah, I'm totally fine with 12. I think I'll go 13. So I'm totally fine if I get him 13 to 15 bucks, because that still leaves me plenty to get a tight end and to spend a little bit on the 13. Perfect. So now I'm excited about my roster. I was a little bit nervous about what I was going to end up with at wide receiver. Now I'm stoked. So now I've got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Adam Thielen, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's the depth I want at wide receiver. If one of those guys misses, if Juju misses, or if Metcalf can't be counted on, then Thielen falls apart. I am happy with those guys. So now at this point, I'm back into money wasting territory. And because we're into round 10, now I'm starting to think about maybe my kicker and D nominations are what I'm going to have to do, because now I'm down to one of the lower dollar values in the room, and it's going to get interesting. I'm happy with what I've done, but I'm going to have to punt here. So I think I'm going to go kicker and D, my next two nominations, and let this draft get into the 13th round. So Matthew Stafford's on the clock. Devin Singletary just went for 10 bucks. And I got to tell you, folks, it is 10 o'clock. And I am probably going to wrap this up here in about 15, 20 minutes. Well, let's say 30. I think I'm going to go off the air at 10:30. I'm going to let this draft play out in the room. But at 10:30, I think is when we'll call it a night, because I think that's going to get us probably into round 13 or 14. And then at that point, it's going to be a lot of counting down for the final players. So the Bills D just went for $2. Now we've seen Matthew Stafford for 4 and the Bills D for 2. And again, I don't love Tom Brady, but Tom Brady for 6, I'm happy with him versus Matthew Stafford for 4. So who are we on now? We're on Ramondre Stevenson. He stopped at $7. Oh gosh, I should probably bid 8. Ugh. I should have bid 8. Byron gets him for 7. Nice deal, Byron. That's a couple times now that Byron's gotten a deal when I should have bid. So nice job, Byron. We have kicker Evan McPherson on the clock. And we've got a little bit of auto bid madness here. One of the auto bid players bid his max bid for Evan McPherson. We've got a $4 kicker, folks. $4 kicker. Y'all know what I think about that. I'm not going to crucify anybody here on the air, but y'all know what I think about that. $4 for Evan McPherson. All right. Sorry about the spamming in the chat there, but Nico Collins to Jim Coventry for $2. I know he's a Nico fan. I could have bid 3 just to be a jerk, Jim, but I decided not to do that. Okay, we're on Javonte Smith. Now, this is one of those guys who, he's one of the few guys left that actually, is a really impact player. And you don't want to, like, I'm at $18. I still need my tight end. And so you don't want to get to the point where you're spending all your money on one player, but you can't let a Devontae Smith go for $6. All right. So now I'm happy he's up around $11. That's great. That's what I want to see. But you can't let a guy like that go for too cheap. So if I was I might end up buying, if he goes for $6, $7, $8, I'm going to end up buying a wide receiver 6 when I shouldn't. But that's just the way I play the game. Devontae Smith goes for 11. I'm much happier with that. So we have now updated money. We have $25. These are the max bids in the room. Max bids in the room are 16, 3, 12, 21, 23, 8, 4, 6, 5, 29, 35, 18. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I was going to go into money wasting mode, but instead what I'd like to do is I'd like to find out what I'm going to spend on my tight end. Because at this point, I've got $18 left. I really only want one more impact player. So I need to find out what I'm going to spend on tight end so I know what I can spend on that impact player. So I don't want to spend a bunch of money on tight end. So $6 for Zach Ertz. Yeah, I'm going to pass on that. It's not that I don't like the price. Earlier in the draft, I would have easily spent 7 or 8. But I don't want to spend that right now because I want to get one more player that I really like. So Hunter Renfrow now comes on the clock by an auto nomination. And y'all know, if you watch my videos today, what I think about Hunter Renfrow. So I like him. That's a nice player, but I'm not going to be in on him. I'm going to be in on somebody a little bit cheaper. He's $10 now. I like that price. Again, earlier in the auction, I'm probably going 11 for him. If I didn't have Thielen, I'd be in on Renfrow. Kind of same guy, same story. So JP ends up with Renfrow for $10. And so, we've got, this is, when you talk about inflection points, we hit an inflection point a little while ago, maybe about a round ago, where we're in that spot where players are just going to be going too cheap, and you're just going to have to pass on them sometimes. Now we got Brandon Ayuk up for bid. I'm going to go ahead and bid 6 on him. I don't want Ayuk that bad, but I think that he is one of the impact players left, and I think that it's somebody that I'm going to bid 8 on him. I think that's my max. So if somebody wants him for 9, that's great, but I'm happy with getting him. I'm just not going to let a guy like that go for $6. So yeah, $8. I'm fine with that. I wasn't going to go after Brandon Ayuk, but I wanted one more impact player, and I think he can be an impact player. Now I'm going to still end up getting a 7th wide receiver, but I want one more running back and a tight end, and I'm basically done. So I'm going to be hammering away at any wide receivers left that have any value, so that people will spend a little bit of money. And hey, look, I got $11. I'm going to kamikaze one more player, I think. Might end up spending $2 at tight end. So Elijah Moore is up to $15. So I love Brandon Ayuk as my wide receiver 6. And I just absolutely love my 6 wide receivers. That is how I build a team. You may not love it yourself, but that's how it goes. Elijah Moore, $15 to JP. Now he's come back to the pack. There's only 2 guys with over $30 left. And we got Julio Jones up for bid now. Like I said, about 25 minutes left. Don't forget, folks, I dropped my last episode, pre-draft episode today of the auction brief. So check out my podcast if you don't already. I'm sure that you do if you're listening to this. But if you don't, that was Julio Jones for $4. But if you don't, take a listen because today was basically everything that you need to know about auctions. If you're going to listen to one episode of my show, this is the episode that you want to listen to. So that's today. And then episode 16 last summer is also an evergreen episode about preparing for auction draft day. So if you're only going to listen to 2 episodes, you just found my show, You're only going to listen to 2. Listen to episode 37 and episode 16. Of course, I want you to get into all of them. It's better to listen to all of them and have all the context. But today's episode is one of my favorite. I hope that you enjoy that one. Okay, so we just had Chase Edmonds go for $11, and I thought about kamikazing for Edmonds for that $11, but I decided not to, because I think there's some players that I like still that I want to get a hold of, and particularly at running back. There's a lot of value left on the board at running back. So we are on Isaiah Pacheco, and he went for $2 to Tom. And we're getting into roster filling territory where a lot of teams are going to be close to filling out their roster. Jim Coventry's close to filling out. Look, looks like Jim needs one player, and he can bid $5 for that player. So Jim's going to be throwing out his max bid as many times as possible. Then Jim's going to head to bed. Am I right, Jim? All right, so we are currently bidding on George Pickens, and he's at $3. This is a good example of a player who might go for more if you call him out earlier in the day, because there's no money left in this room, and people are really excited about Pickens. So if you call out a buzzy player like Pickens when there's a bunch of people with money left in the room, he might go for $8-9. But instead he went for $4 because there's just no money left. So David Njoku got nominated. I'm going to bid $3 for Njoku. I still need a tight end. I'm not going to panic here and overpay, but I'm going to try to get one for a couple bucks. And if I get him for $3, that's perfect. Love it. So I get Njoku for $3. Now we're rolling. I'm stoked about that because there isn't a whole lot left here. Jim goes Robert Woods for $5. He's trying to end his night. Nope. And it's going to go to $6 to Andrew. So I got Njoku. Now I know what I've paid for my last tight end, or for my tight end. And I'm probably going to get maybe a $1 tight end later. But now I got $9, and I got to decide what I'm going to do at running back. So I have to go at one more running back. And I ideally, what I want to do is spend about $6 on a running back and then go get a receiver for $3. And then that means that I've only got one bench spot left, and that's perfect. But I might spend $9 on one player. It just, I'm looking at who's left, and I'm thinking, okay, who am I going to want to spend $9 on? There's a couple guys that I like, but at this point, I've isolated a couple different guys, and I'm not going to tell you because you guys have gotten enough information from me tonight. Yeah, Axel, I think Evan Ingram might be in my wheelhouse. I'm probably going to get a $1 tight end because I like Njoku, but I want to back him up with somebody. So now is the time for the kicker and D. I wanted to get my tight end, but I have my tight end. So now I'm going to go for the kicker and D. Next time it's up to me. It'll be a kicker nomination. Hopefully he's going to run. Oh, it's my oh, well, look at that. How exciting. I'm going to throw this guy out, and if he goes for too much money, that's totally fine. If you want to spend more than $1 on a kicker, be my guest. If not, I'm going to get Justin Tucker. It's a win-win. All right, so I get Tucker for $1. That's cool. Now we got Tyler Lockett up for $1. And now he's at $2. Holy cow. The cliff has arrived, folks. There's no money left in the room. Tyler Lockett is going to go for $3. Nice deal there. $3. Yeah, there's still a couple players that I'm interested in. And so I'm definitely going to kamikaze my $9 into a player that I like. It could be I could just, walk out of this draft with 3 running backs because I just don't care about the running backs that are left. I'm hoping to get a cheap one, but I just don't care about them. So we'll see. Let's see what happens. See how it develops here. I'm going to continue to waste my nominations and let this thing happen around me. Garrett Wilson comes up for $1. I think I know who some of these guys are probably saving their money for, so I'm going to try to go at those nominations next. I'm probably going to do a defense next, but then after that, I think I know where they're saving their money. So Garrett Wilson goes to Barrett for $2. We're truly in that zone now because we are now officially into the 13th round, and that means that we've only got 4 rounds left, and there is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 players with more than $10 left. And that is, that's telling me exactly what I need to know. And that is that 1, 2, 3. Yep. And that is that there are going to be some players that you have to pass on at this point because I don't have enough money and nobody else in the room has enough money. And you're going to have to pass on a deal. Pat Fryermuth just went for $2. Now, I'm not a huge Fryermuth guy, but $2, again, this is that point that I talk about all the time, that you're going to have to watch some deals go by, and especially if you don't save your money. And I didn't save my money. So I was actually going to bid $2 on Knox because I'm fine with having him as a backup, but he goes up to 3, so I'm out. And it looks like Brad's going to get Knox for 3. That's a nice deal. All things being equal, would I rather have Njoku or Knox? Definitely rather have Knox. But I'm fine with Njoku. I think he's an interesting player this year. So James Cook is up now. I'm going to try to get Cook cheap. If I can't get him cheap, that's fine. But if I can get him for $3, that's cool. But I'm not really going to sell out for Cook. Definitely wanted to get his price up there a little bit. I'm in a unique situation here because I've only got 3 running backs. And the bottom line is I want to get a 4th guy. Like sometimes you want to swing for the fences, but I think I need a 4th guy who's reliable. And I have Javonte Williams, so it's a little bit weird. I don't really want Melvin Gordon because Melvin Gordon's the guy I would go for as a reliable guy. But hey, YOLO, it is a mock. So I'm just going to go and probably roll with 3 running backs unless I can get somebody real cheap. Hayden Hurst is up. Michael Gallup just went for 2. James Cook went for 4. Dawson Knox went for 3. Hayden Hurst is up, and he's $2. So I'm afraid this is going to get boring rather fast. If you're not bored already, there is still a lot of strategy here, and that's the thing. So Levi asks me, how much do you value Madison with Cook? I do value him. And I'm not one of those guys that is anti-handcuff. I do value him. So I don't think it's a bad idea for me to think about getting Madison. But I'm certainly not going to sell out, and I'm certainly not going to ruin my team to get Madison. But if I can get him for a couple bucks, that's great. But that's certainly not who I'm targeting at this point. But yes, I am a handcuff guy when it comes to those type of players. Okay, so now defense. I'm going to try to just get my top defense on the board for $1. And if I don't, somebody else is going to get them, and they're going to pay $2, and that's fine with me. So I nominated the Rams for $1. And if I get them for $1, I'm stoked. I've wasted another round of nominations. And I got my top D for $1. So I'm happy about that. Nope. Now we're on Claypool, and he's going for $2. And that's a heck of a deal. So we are rolling right along. I only need 3 players. Okay, I only need 3 players. So I have to decide where I'm going to kamikaze this $9 to, or if I'm going to split it up and try to get a 4th running back. That sounds boring, though, right? Sounds kind of boring. So Christian Kirk is up, and he's $3, $4, $5, and so now I'm out because my max is 9. So I thought I might take a shot on Kirk, but I didn't know how much he would be, and it appears the guys with some money left are going to take him. So Brad's sitting over there with 13 players and $25 left. So Brad can write his ticket at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see who he's after. The next nomination is the Saints defense for $1. Christian Kirk went for $8. And the Saints went for $1. We're starting to fill out rosters here. We are rolling into pick 135. We got 15 minutes left on the live feed. We're going to get real close to finishing this thing. Any other questions in the chat? I know that I haven't been perfect about answering all of them, but yeah, any more questions in the chat? So right now we got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he's going for $4 to JP, and JP ends up getting him. Now we got Melvin Gordon on the clock. I'm not letting him go for $1. Yeah, I was about to bid 2, even though I have Javonte Williams. I don't really want him. I was about to bid 2 because I ain't letting him go for $1. So Melvin Gordon's up to $5. That's about all I can ask for at this point. He's an $8 or $10 player earlier in the draft, but that's not where we are. So Gordon for $5. The next nomination is the Ravens D for $1. I would imagine that's going to go. Pick 137, the Ravens D for $1. Now we're getting into the territory where some people can only bid $1 or bid a couple bucks. So this is going to pick up speed even more. So let's see what we've got here. Byron's on the clock for the nomination. So Alexander's asking about the Superflex. He's going to hammer at me until I give him some Superflex information. No, seriously though, Alexander, I appreciate you sticking around and being active in the chat. I do appreciate your support. So I'm just messing with you. But yeah, so Superflex, the way I treat it is, I treat it sort of like I treat the running back spot, and that I want to get one that I really can rely on. I want to get a Dak or a Russell Wilson or somebody. I'm going for low end QB1, and I'm going to get one of them, and then I'm going to pick 2 other guys that are mid tier guys. So I'm going to try to get like a Carr and a Cousins, or a Mills and a Stafford or something like that. So I'm going to go bottom end QB1 for 1, and then for my second and third, I'm going to spend a little bit less money. Gosh, that Alberto for $1, that's frustrating. Because had I known that shit was going down, had I known that was going down, I would have bid on a tight end that I want. So I'm going to call out a tight end and see if I can get a tight end for $1. Because that's really what I'm after here. Alberto goes for $1. Green Bay Packers goes for $1. So I'm going to call out a tight end that I want for $1. And if I don't get him for $1, I'm not bidding 3. So Kadarius Toney's up now. I'm going to bid on Toney. And it looks like some other people have the same idea. Ah, God, do I have to do this? Yeah, I got to do this. All right, so JP's gone up to 8. Is my draft over right now? I guess it is. All right. I'm cool with that. I was actually going to, there was 2 guys I had left in my head. Toney was one of them. I think he's a real impact player this late in the draft. So I'm happy with that. And I have, excuse me. And I've got my tight end that I want as my backup. I'm hoping to get him for $1. That's Hunter Henry. And then I've got $1 bench player. I absolutely love my wide receivers. I'm going to snuggle with my wide receivers later. It's going to be amazing. Alexander, I don't think RB1 is more valuable. I really do think that RB1, because of the scarcity, I understand that. But in auctions, you can buy wide receiver points cheaper. I'd rather go for the wide receiver one than the RB1. That's how I feel about it. You're welcome, Chris. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you learned that even I spend my money too early sometimes. I was not prepared. And let this be a lesson to all of you out there. I don't know what's happening with my voice, but I think this is really instructive because I didn't come into this thing very prepared. I like my team, but my team could be a lot better had I been more prepared. I didn't have a par sheet. I didn't have an idea of what I was going to do after I ended up getting cooked earlier for 43. So I didn't have that crutch that I really kind of need and rely on. So Alexander says more voices. Alexander, do you listen to the show? I do lots of voices on the show. Mike Gesicki just went for $1. Sky Moore went for $5. I was pumped to get Hunter Henry for $1 because I think he is a fantastic backup for an Njoku. When I build when I build a cheap tight end situation, I want to get an explosive guy like Njoku who can just break out and go nuts. And then I want to get a guy backing him up that I feel like has a significant role, and that's Hunter Henry. He's going to be frustrating to have, but he's a guy where with this type of thing, I spent $4 on those two guys. I'm pumped about that. I love that. That is exactly where I want to be. So Alexander says he does listen to the show. So maybe we want to do the rest of the draft like Duke, huh? There's Isaiah McKenzie for $2, brother. Dotson went for $4, brother. Alexander Madison, of course I can't get him now because I kamikazed for Kadarius Toney, but that's all right. I don't really care that much about a handcuff. I'm going to try to get a running back I like to end my team, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Brad's got all this money. Brad, what are you going to spend your $21 on, my friend? Next time up, nominate your guy and get him. Madison went for $4. And see, that's the thing. I like Madison, but I don't want to pay $5. I don't care if I have Dalvin Cook. I don't want to spend $5 on him. Jamal Williams goes for $1, Madison for $4, McKenzie for $2. I'm not saying Madison for $4 is a bad price. It's just that when it gets to the end of a draft, that's not where my priority is. So I'd want to spend it a little bit earlier, knowing that I have some time, to come back from that. So let's see what's out there at quarterback. Do I want to back up Brady? No, I don't. Do I want another tight end? Irv Smith? Evan Ingram? No. So I want to go for an 8th wide receiver? No. I got to go for a 4th running back. I just have to, right? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah, John, that's a great point. He says Bears and Seahawks in the first 2 weeks for the 49ers. That's absolutely right. Go into your auctions. I love that play, by the way, folks. I love that. So Rashad White goes to Brad, and he is finished. Golf clap, everyone. And, is Jim finished too? Oh, Jim, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were out. Jim's probably already in bed, so he's not listening. But golf clap for Jim and Brad for being done. Jameis Winston's up for $1. Rashad White was Brad's player that he was sitting on. So at this point, I got to nominate a running back. I'm probably not going to get the guy that I want. So I'm just stuck in this whole nominate a guy for $1. Hope you get him. Don't get him, and then wait another round. So come on, stick me with him for $1. No! Just kidding. I knew that was going to happen. But it is a little frustrating because, Henderson's a guy that would really actually help my depth for a couple bucks. But, there's not, that's the corner you paint yourself into. And that's okay. There's plenty of crappy running backs left, and I'll end up getting one of them for $1. I'm also going to work the wire like a maniac in a 12-teamer, and that's where my RB4 is going to come from. I like that. Alexander, yes. North Shore life, baby. Yeah, brother. I like working the wire for, I want to walk out of the auction with a player that I absolutely don't care about at all as my last guy. So we just had Russell Gage go for $1. That's an insane player to be going for $1. Folks, we spent our money too fast. We did not. If this was an actual draft that we were playing out, somebody who saved their money and wanted to scoop up all these deals, man. Russell Gage, Darrell Henderson, Jarvis Landry, Rashad White, like all these players are going super cheap for $2, and that's where we are. But yeah, I wanted to comment on what John said that Brad, no problem, man. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate the time from everybody. And everyone's showing up and doing what they're supposed to do, getting there on time. I appreciate that. But John made the comment that taking the Niners D for the first 2 weeks where they had the Bears and the Seahawks isn't a bad idea. I agree with that. Go into your auctions. Don't worry about getting your defense for the year. If you can get your defense for the year for $1, like that's totally cool. But don't worry about going in and getting your defense for the year if it's going to cost you a couple bucks. Instead, look at the first couple weeks and see who the best defenses are. A couple years ago, I forget who it was, a defense, I think it was the Broncos, that I got in every league because that's they had a great first 2 or 3 games, and then I was just going to go off of streaming after that. So I think that's a great idea, and John's got it nailed. Get those Niners D, get that Niners D, get them out there, get them for a buck. They get the Bears and the Seahawks the first 2 weeks. You can stream after that. I love it. Khalil Herbert's up, another guy that I would like to have, but I'm not going to have because I have a buck, and I suck at auction drafting. Just kidding. All right. You know who I'm going to end up with? I'm going to end up with my boy. And if somebody snipes me for my boy, I'm gonna have to reconsider telling you all my strategies on a live stream here. Come on, brother. More epistemological content, please. I teased it in once in one of the. You're right. You know what, Alexander? You're absolutely right. I love that stuff. But the thing is, the problem is, I feel like people get bored and they don't want to hear that. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, who's my boy? You guys can somebody if you want me to hate you, then bid $2. Okay, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. This is how the game is played. But my boy Sony Michel ends up on a lot of my rosters because nobody likes him. Am I going to finish my team? Yay! Nobody likes Sony Michel. Yay for Sony. Brada, I can't believe my boy Sony Michel for $1, brada. It's a freaking running back for $1. I got 4 running backs, brada. Salt life, brada. So, Alexander, how do you get in? You really, unfortunately, people jump on the mock. Whenever I say that I'm about to do a mock, people jump on it so quick that it's really hard to get into them. So, unfortunately, that's, you just got to be paying attention to Twitter. Maybe turn your notifications on for when I tweet. That might get annoying, but yeah. You're right, though. The epistemological stuff, I think it's fun, but I think it's boring for a lot of other people. So that's more of an off-season kind of thing. Maybe that's a March show. We'll do that in March. Alexander, what was your major? I was a philosophy major, and my emphasis was in metaphysics, and I was a religious studies minor, and I had an emphasis in the philosophy of religion. So interesting. All right. So let me recap the last few players. I got Michelle for $1, Christian Watson for $1, Tolbert for $1, Chark for $2, Wandale Robinson for $1, and then a kicker, Daniel Carlson for $2. We're getting into that point where we are almost done, and I am about to sign off for the evening. So let me just say, first of all, thank you to everybody that came to the mock auction in the room, all the people who gave me your time to do this auction. I really appreciate that. And it is one of those things that, as a content creator, I couldn't do my job without all of you. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. I couldn't do it without all of you, and I appreciate all of your support. I think that the room got a little excited to spend some money early on, and we're seeing at the end of the draft that the prices fell off a cliff, and there were some deals that should not have been there as we went through the draft. But that's what's great about auctions, and that's why I love this format. So thank you to everybody in the draft room. My buddy Jim Coventry, thank you so much for coming, and my buddy Auction Andrew as well. Nice job, everybody. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at Drew Davenport FF. Check out my TikTok page. I'm flooding you with TikToks this weekend at Fantasy Football Lawyer on TikTok. I'm putting out my Shrug Your Shoulders guys. Don't forget that my Shrug Your Shoulders guys, I have a really high hit rate on those Shrug Your Shoulders guys. In fact, I think I'm over 70% over the couple years that I've been doing the Shrug Your Shoulders guys. So pay attention to that. I've got the first 2 guys out. You can check my Twitter or my TikTok to check out my first 2 Shrug Your Shoulders guys. I'm going to be dropping at least 2 a day for the next couple of days until I drop all 10 of my favorite nominations in your auctions. So I think that's going to do it. We are playing out the string here with a bunch of $1 players, defenses, kickers, and last players for everyone's roster. I think the usefulness of the feed is hit its conclusion. So thank you all for coming in. I hope this helped you. I feel like I talked for 2 hours, and I don't know if I really said anything. So I hope that being inside my brain while this happened helped you a little bit. I don't know whether or not I accomplished that goal. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the supporters of the auction brief in general. Y'all just really, you really make it easy to do this job. And thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. Take it easy.